How are y'all doing? Thanks for that. Caitlin, you're all good at Durham Hub. I think, was that a thumbs up that I saw? Cool. How many people do you have there at Durham? You can write it in the chat. Oh, okay, nice. Cool. We've got about 15 here now, so I know people will still roll in a little bit as well. Everyone can hear me okay and see me okay. You can see Christian's screen by now. It looks like a picture of a phone app, and people in person, you can see that too. Durham, you can see that okay?
Can you see my actual cell phone screen?
Yep, I
Okay, great.
can.
Perfect. Excellent.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm going to keep an eye on the waiting room. I think Caitlin's also doing that. We've got about 65 people online, 15 here, another 10 in Durham. So thank you so much. As you know, this is a mandatory training for the FinTracker app itself. So we have done lots of training on FinTrack and the policies and procedures and the forms. This is what we are recommending you to use if you don't want to use the form, or if you're getting confused or you're getting SkySlope updates from me saying something's not filled out correctly. This is your best way to ensure that you're filling it out correctly, because Christian's going to show you what it looks like, but it literally prompts you for all the mandatory fields. So you literally cannot miss anything. Um, I wanted to just give you also a heads up. If you haven't been coming to our Monday meetings, we have been talking about it, but in those meetings, we talked about how our friends at another Century 21 brokerage just got fined over $150,000. And their fine was due to not submitting a suspicious transaction report. So that's something that I'm responsible for doing if I notice anything is suspicious, and I can actually get fined if I don't do that in an untimely manner. So they are going to appeal that fine, but it is a serious thing. It's never been something that Claire has, he's taken it seriously, but he doesn't like the government, as you know, right? And this is a government federal sort of law program. But because of these fines, because of all the eyeballs on us right now, we just simply have no choice but to comply. So this is not my opinion of what I think about FinTrack, or, how I think they could do better, but it is what it is. We have to comply, all of us. It's a federal law. I also wanted to take an opportunity to just introduce Rosanna, who's tucked in the back corner here. She's our new compliance officer at Percy Fulton. She just started with us yesterday. She's been a compliance officer before, so she's well versed in all of this. But because she's going to be closing out our deals at the same time as checking your FinTrack forms, you might be able to guess something that we might be implementing in the future, right? So normally I would still process your deal. You might get a SkySlip update and you might still get your paycheck. That might change in the future. So if we notice that something's missing, or maybe you're a repeat offender, there's still mistakes and we're still human. So we are still receptive to that. But there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on your FinTrack forms, even more than usual. And I'll just, before I get started, sorry, Christian, just a couple more things because it's a really important
Sure.
topic. We
Of
just
course,
had
of
our
course.
audit last winter. So our audit is complete. I can't say that we successfully passed. I mean, we got through it with no fines, but there was definitely a lot of issues. So that's why we're just doing more training than we've ever done before. You'll see some policies being updated. Some of the major things, just so you know, from what we got called out on was not having a receipt of funds forms or FinTrack forms at all. So that's the one thing, we just don't have it. If we did have the forms, they were either missing information or not complete. And then a big thing was in the corporation. So there's a lot more information now that we need to do for corporations and identifying them and beneficial ownership. And thankfully, FinTracker app does all of that as well. It does do corporations, it does all of that. So if you're confused and you're tired of hearing me say the same things over and over, it's just going past your head. I know we're all right-brained, we're focused on sales. FinTracker app will literally, help you do that. It is not mandatory to use the app. It is mandatory to have some sort of form. So whether or not, doesn't matter to me how you do it. I would recommend you use the app, and maybe one day we'll go towards that. Our cloud brokerage friends in the industry make it mandatory to just use the app. There's just, you can't use the form. It is what it is. So we're not there yet, but it is a great app. I've been using it. I can tell you guys are using it. Christian has stats. I know 70 of people, like, of you have already signed up. I'm getting forms every day. And Christian's going to show you actually how to use the app that you have available to you. And again, if you're just logging in fresh, make sure your microphone is muted. Cameras are totally fine. This is being recorded. So if things are going too fast, you will get a recording after. And I'm also here to answer any questions you may have. Um, Caitlin, you can put in the chat if I missed anything, but otherwise I'm excited to introduce you to Christian from FinTracker app.
Good morning, Century 21, Percy Fulton. Thank you, Carly, for that introduction. And I have to say that was probably the most informative opening remarks we've been present in any of the meetings moving forward because most of the time it's something that offices just want to get through, but they forget to highlight the importance that A, it's a member benefit, so you're not having to pay for this out of pocket, it's through your member benefits. And B, it really does help streamline the completion of the forms by saving you a tremendous amount of time and reducing the amount of human errors, as Carly highlighted. We're all human. We make mistakes. The app isn't perfect as well, but it definitely speeds up the process. And for those who don't know me, my name is Christian Kaspari. I am the head of business development here at FinTracker. I came on last year to help with the day-to-day operations. I had the opportunity to drop by the Percy Fulton office there in Scarborough, meet with Carly, get to know a little bit the lay of the land. And it's something that we've been working on for quite some time, correct, Carly? We've been kind of trying to keep up to date. I know FinTrack is always moving the goalposts. The good thing is that these forms are always being updated. We're always keeping close to policy and an ear for what might come down the pipeline. And full disclosure, we're not here to give legal advice. We're not here to change your workflow. We're not here to disclose or report to FinTrack right off the bat, okay? We wear this badge proudly. Carly and Caitlin are wearing their trucker hats, so they're here to support you in any way that you can. So to jump into the app, I know most of you have already downloaded the app. If you haven't downloaded the app, feel free to take the next couple of minutes as I just kind of walk you through the setup process. I know most of you have already set up the app, but if you haven't, you can go to the Play Store, Android, iOS system, download the app, create your account. It's going to ask you to create your account or sign in. Create your account. You're going to enter your name, your last name, your mobile number. It'll ask you to select your real estate board. Please be specific. Don't use CREA as your real estate board. That is only for admins who need access to forms. So please select your real estate board. It'll ask you to choose your brokerage company. You'll select Century 21, and then you'll enter the brokerage phone number. And I'm sure Carly or Caitlin will enter the phone number so that you're actually prompted to register with the right office. You'll receive a welcoming email. Check your spam, check your junk folder. If it's not there, reach out. But in most cases, it will be there. You will receive a temporary password. Copy that password. When you log in for the very first time, you paste that password and you reset your password and you're in. That is literally the hardest thing to do. It's just getting through that initial process because it is a step-by-step playbook. Once you're there, you'll see the app already on your mobile screen. This is a mobile and desktop friendly app and version for those who'd like to use your computers to fill out these forms. You can as well. But I will walk you through some of the more basic, I'll keep this in layman terms. I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds, but I will explain the features and benefits that most of you will use on a day-to-day basis, starting with the very first option, new remote ID verification, which is to be used in case of a client that is not physically present. And I'll talk about that in a second. The second option is your individual ID form that will be completed when you are in presence of the client. You also have your corporate ID forms. We added some cool features there, and your receipt of funds. But let's start with the remote ID feature. I believe this is at some point going to replace the other acceptable method of IDing a client that is not physically present, which is the use of a mandatory. And this is my personal opinion, think it's extremely flawed because think about it. If Carly is in Alberta and I'm in Toronto and Carly is looking to purchase property here, I need to find someone that I probably don't even know to ID a client that I probably don't even know. It wastes time. You have to give a gift card, some sort of compensation for time and resources. But above all things, the remote ID feature, this feature that we have right now, and if you're part of PropTix, which I believe, Carly, if you can back me up on this, most of your agents are with PropTix, you receive 5 free remote ID verification tokens annually. You don't compound. If you don't use them, you lose them. But like I said, it replaces one of the biggest infractions that we're seeing agents committing, but it's not being talked about as much, asking the clients to text or email you a copy of their ID. This is in direct violation of the Privacy Act. And I know many of you right now are probably deleting the photos in your photo library right now. Because if you really think about it, how many apps on your phone right now, Snapchat, TikTok, video games, have access to your camera roll? And we're storing client personable information here. This is a violation of the Act. FINTRAC considers this to be a soft method. So by using the remote ID token, it replaces you perhaps having to sit in front of a tribunal and receive a monetary infraction, a suspension, or even loss of license. We don't want that. So that's why we give you 5 free tokens, which for many agents is plenty. When your client is not physically present, you want to give them a heads up. Carly, I'm going to be sending you a quick text message. I need to ID you as part of my legal obligations before we purchase or list your property. So you'll give them a heads up, enter your name. And if I go too fast, ask me to slow down, but I'm trying to really keep this surface level. Enter your client's phone number, 416-910-9747. In this case, I'm going to send myself a text message. If your client is in a different country and they're not roaming, perhaps they're traveling, you can text yourself the link, copy it, and then paste it in WhatsApp, WeChat, Telegram, in one of those other international platforms. So you'll go back to your text messages. The client will open up their text message. They'll see there's a link, and they will read why this is required under federal law, proceeds of crime, money laundering, terrorist financing act. If they want more information, there's a quick disclosure form at the very bottom where it says the FINTRAC website. And then they'll proceed to the next step, which is their KYC. I've been doing this a long time, so my answers have already been pre-populated, but I need to make a quick pause and highlight here. Words like self-employed, entrepreneur, businessman, not acceptable. We need to be able to disclose in an audit how these individuals made money to transact in Canadian real estate. If they are retired, congratulate them on their retirement, and then just simply ask a follow-up question. What did you do? Where did you work? In what industry were you in? Okay? If the forms, if you don't, again, this is part of your KYC, so hopefully at this point, you will have already explained this to them before they entered self-employed, self-employed, self-employed. Again, follow up the message that you're going to send them with when you have to enter your occupation, employment, and industry. Please don't use these 3 specific words, and they will be as specific as they can for you. There'll be a 1.5-minute video to watch. In most cases, they'll skip over it because I promise you this is the easiest, most intuitive app for both the client and the agent. And they will start their identification process, okay? In Canada, acceptable forms of government issued ID, passport, driver's license, Nexus card, provincial cards, permanent resident cards. A question we get asked often, what if my client is an expat? You know, they're living in the US, they've been there for 5, 10 years. They don't have a Canadian driver's license. They don't have a Canadian passport, but they are Canadian residents. We scan IDs in 175 countries. Select your country from the drop-down list, and it will prompt you with the local issued government ID that is acceptable for us to screen and scan. In this case, we'll go ahead and use a Canadian Ontario driver's license. We'll ask for access for one-time use only. You will simply put the driver's license there, take a little snap, flip it around, take the back. Please make sure that also the client is aware that there shouldn't be any damages to the ID. If it's expired, it will not let you move forward. And what the app is doing right now is authenticating to make sure this is a live and current document, that it's not an AI version of a document, that's not a picture of a document. We actually have integrated AI where it actually screens and scans for the entirety of the ID, signature payloads, QR codes, watermarks, barcodes, size of document, even liveness authentication to ensure that this photo is actually somebody who's real. And to give merit to the entire process, you also want to ensure whomever's sending you this ID is who they say they are. And the way we do that is by requesting that they take a quick selfie. Make sure that you're not behind a window or there aren't other faces in the background or too many distractions. You'll hit continue. The client will put their camera in front of their face. There you go. I look about a 6 today. It's not bad. It's Wednesday. And it will now give the authentication process and go full circle in just a couple of seconds now. There. That's it. That's all the client has to do. They don't have to download the app. They don't have to install any software or install any links. That's all that's required on the client side. You'll go back to your app, you'll refresh the browser, and you'll see that when you open the individual ID form, the client's information has already been pre-populated into the form here. No mistakes, no abbreviations. When this information gets submitted and reconciled, we actually put asterisks over the client's information to ensure that it is and remains encrypted. But you will now start your point of purchase. If you don't have an address. Maybe you're being super proactive. Maybe there's something in your office policies that says, listen, if you're working with someone who's not physically present, ID them before you even start showing properties. Again, I'll leave that up to your office, but many of you choose to be proactive through past experiences. And so you can simply hit save and then go back to your records and it will stay there. When the deal is already in the process of materializing, they do have a property address that they want to put an offer in or list, you can now open up the form and complete. Another cool feature is you cannot submit forms that are missing required fields, which is why a lot of companies across Canada have simply made FINTRAC mandatory because there's no more chasing agents to complete information. And I know it's annoying from both parties and it creates a tremendous amount of friction because you want this process to be as smooth as possible. And so by using the app, your compliance officer knows they're not looking for fields that are missing. They're simply looking through the information on the form. Another great feature is that if it's a new agent, maybe you haven't ever filled out one of these forms. Maybe you're an agent that hasn't done a deal in a long time, or maybe you're an agent that's been around for a long time but is not very app savvy. When you've collected the client's information, just hit the save button. When you hit submit, the app will actually prompt you in red all of your required fields. So you can't make a mistake. So you're not even guessing at this point, right? Again, this is a great indirect tutorial step by step for agents to be able to fill out the form. So let's go ahead and start this whole process as a buyer. If you have a transaction address, great. Go ahead and enter it. Let's put in 45 Linden, St. Catharines. Again, no abbreviations on the city or in the province. Scrolling down, all the client's information has already been pre-populated into the form here. And then we get to the third party, right? Whether it's a power of attorney, an estate sale. Again, I'm sure your compliance officer can fill you in on what's required when there is a third party involved. I don't want to give real estate or legal advice, but this is something that you can definitely reach out to the office manager, to your compliance officer, and get a real outline on how this works. So today, we're just going to click that there's no third party, right? If there is perhaps a power of sale, Carly, correct me if I'm wrong, ID the client, name the third party. That's usually how it kind of works, okay? Don't overthink it. And if you have any questions, always reach out to your office staff. They'll be able to help you in no time. Client risk assessment is also here, right? Your 630, 634 forms is essentially what we've copied and pasted onto the app. So when you get the form that's completed, you get the entire individual ID form filled out in its entirety with no missing fields and a legible form as you would doing it manually. Client risk assessment, answer these questions to the best of your ability. Don't make assumptions. Some of the answers will actually be pre-populated. For example, question number 13, does this involve a third party? It's pre-populated to no because you just answered that question. Question number 14, if you're using a remote ID, did you ID this client in a non-to-non-face setting? It's already pre-populated to yes, saving you a little bit of time. So don't change those answers. We'll give you a little calculator at the end, save and calculate your score. So no more mental math, abacus, pulling out calculators. If the score is above 10, agents, please do not change the answers, okay? Make a note and have your compliance officer take a look at this, okay? We'll treat this as a residential property. Business dealings, and I know this is not a mandatory field on the individual ID form. However, we have made this a mandatory field on the FinTracker app because we want to give your compliance officer or whomever is looking through these forms a broader view of the type of relationship that you actually have with this client. Because if you perhaps put in first-time client and then Carly is receiving 4 different receipt of funds to this transaction for $9,999 in cash, well, there's something definitely that might be having to look into this situation here, right? So there's no wrong answer. Just be as specific as you can. First-time client, repeat investor, referral of another client. Again, no wrong answer, but this field needs to be put in there because we've been asked over and over by many offices across the country that they have actually put this as a required field in their office policies and training manuals. Can we please update the app? And so we have done so. Additional measures taken that you've asked them to ID themselves on every transaction. I see that there's questions in the chat. I'll get to them towards the end. And I promise you, in most cases, I've already answered or will answer your question as we move forward. Politically exposed and heads of international organizations. Your 634 is also here. All of the forums are here. It's a beautiful thing. Again, very intuitive, very simple app to use. The question agents are not asking when they get to this section of the form is, are you politically exposed or associated or arm's length with someone in a politically exposed situation? Okay. The question is not asked, are you a politician? No. It's, are you associated? Are you in a politically exposed environment or associated to someone? Mother, father, son, brother, hidden lover. I don't know. Disclose everyone that's politically exposed. Heads of international organization. This is a question that we got asked, but I might as well also answer it in this webinar today. If you run your own Amazon store and you ship worldwide, you might be the head of international organization in your own house, but it does not count on the 634 form, okay? I thought it was a brilliant question, right? So if you have some sort of online store that's shipping internationally, it does not qualify you as a head of international organization. Visa, MasterCard, FIFA, World Health Organization, big boys, publicly traded companies are there. How did you ask the individual today? And then hit save. That's it. It took me less than 5 minutes to fill out the form, talking over the presentation. It'll take you a couple of minutes to fill this out. When you get used to using it, it's not a process that needs to be rushed. Take your time, but you will see that once this is completed, and I'll show you how the forms look towards the end, you'll be asking yourself, why haven't I been using this forever? Let's add another individual ID form to this transaction kit. Let's say there are two people. One individual you ID'd remotely. Great. The second individual is actually sitting next to you. You're going to select Add New Record to Transaction Kit and the first option. So if you are in a face-to-face setting with your client, ask for the government-issued ID. Remember, this is not a verification process. This is simply asking you to pre-populate the form. The agent still needs to verify the client's identity. Ask for the driver's license, passport, look at it. Yes, that looks like Christian. Hit the scan button there. And if you blink, you're going to miss this. You grab the client's ID, you put it there, and it extracts the information just like this, filling out some sections of the form for where the client's information is required. And then you start, again, your KYC, plumber, occupation is ABC, plumbing, industry is construction, please no abbreviations, and no emojis. Moving on, is there a third party? I'll complete this because we've already done this on the previous form, so I won't talk too much over it. But again, answer these questions to the best of your ability, and if you don't have the answers, reach out to the client and ask them. Again, question 13 has already been pre-populated because you said it was no third party. Is there a client face-to-face setting? No. Moving on, save and calculate. Enter notes if the score is above 10. This is a residential property, business dealings, brother of my first time client. There you go. Done. Additional measures taken is there. Moving on, politically exposed. Ask the question on every individual ID form, are you politically exposed or at arm's length associated with someone in a politically exposed situation or party? Mayor or above. I should be specific. I've asked the client to ID themselves upon every transaction, and I made the determination today. Hit save. Whoops, I missed something. I went too fast. I missed buyer. See, the app will not let you actually move forward without all required fields being completed, which I promise you, it eliminates a tremendous amount of friction between you and the office from having to reject forms, from having to chase the agents. Your office now has an access to an admin portal where they will be rejecting the forms directly through that ecosystem into your app. Beautiful stuff. Buyer, and now we'll hit save. Let's go ahead and add another form. Let's say, again, you're at that point of purchase. They want to purchase this property, 45 Linden. You've ID'd both individuals before and not after. As Carly mentioned earlier, a lot of infractions are being shared across the industry and being known for doing this afterwards, after the deal materialized. So you want to do this at the very beginning. And you are now going to create your receipt of funds. The deposit is in your hand, bringing it to the listing brokerage. Add new record to transaction kit, new receipt of funds, Both individual ID forms are already attached because you're creating a new form on this existing transaction kit. If you don't have a receipt of funds, both of those forms will already be in your submitted folder. And when the deal materializes and you need to create a new receipt of funds, you simply select the attach transaction kit and you can pull that information from a drop-down menu. Try it on your phones. Very easy stuff. We'll enter today's date, March 4th. By default, it's already in Canadian dollars. Let's do a $70,000 deposit on the receipt of funds. And as you're probably walking along the app with me, when you actually select bank draft, I don't have it here, but there'll be a little pop-up screen that informs you that bank drafts do not contain the origins account. Okay? Here's where a lot of offices are falling off the cliff because agents are not actually reading through the form, knowing that it is their obligation to collect who is providing the funds and where are these funds being drawn from. And I promise you, moving forward, your office is going to be rejecting all of these receipt of funds if the information is not collected, because in an audit, FINTRAC wants to see this. It all flows beautifully, but the education starts at the agent level. That's why we're here. So bank draft, it'll be received in person, deposit on residential property, and you can see how simple this is. There's almost no typing. It's just select, drop-down menu, select, drop-down menu. Very easy, very intuitive. We pre-populated most of the answers that you're filling out manually right now through web forms. Deposit into a trust account. Yes, let's go ahead and enter the lawyer. So ABC, Law. That'll be the account holder. If it is ABC Realty, meaning that either you or your client is bringing the deposit to the listing brokerage, you must, and this is what FINTRAC wants to see on the receipt of funds, you must enter the words listing brokerage. I repeat, when delivering the deposit to the listing brokerage, you must clarify under the name of the account holder, listing brokerage. FINTRAC wants to see this, and we are sharing this with you now, okay? The bank draft number is on the bank draft. The name of the bank is on the bank draft. And then you get to your source accounts. We actually have two cool options here. Number one, if your client is traveling and you haven't really gathered this information, and you call, Carly, I need the source account number. I don't want to give this to you, Christian, because first of all, I don't trust the government. They might be spying or might be listening to this phone call. Is there any way else that I can actually send you this information? Absolutely. You click on send info request. You enter the client's name. Sorry, you enter your name, the client's email, the client's phone number, and they will actually fill out the source information for you. I don't encourage this method because it creates more work for the client. Again, this is what you've been brought onto the transaction for, to complete this information for them. But you do have that option. If you have the information with you, great. Please pose or at least make the attempt to get this information by asking the client in the following manner. Carly, are these funds coming from your account or someone else's account? Remember, you don't see the individual's name, so don't make the assumption that the person who's actually delivering the deposit is the one who actually is providing the funds, who's financing this deal. Ask this question. Are these funds coming from your account or someone else's account? Christian, they're coming from my account. Fantastic. I just need the last 7 digits of the account number. I don't need the full account number. I just need the last 7 unique digits. No problem. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Enter the financial institution's name. Type of account number is there. Move on. In the event, okay, and I'm going to talk about this, but this is not something I recommend, and I'm sure your office is going to put a full stop to this. If, in the event, you ask the client, are these funds coming from your account or someone else's account? They're coming from my account. Great. May you provide me with the last 7 digits of the account number? No, I don't want to. Don't press the client. Don't kill the deal. But you have to make an attestation of why that client did not want to provide the source account. Because in an audit, FINTRAC's eyes are going to go straight to the source account. If that's missing, they're going to ask you, why is this or why was this not provided? Carly talked about this briefly at the intro. We want to make sure that in a situation like this, you know what to do. So when the client does not want to provide you the information, they say, Christian, you know what? I'm a big conspiracy theorist. I don't trust the government with anything, let alone my banking information, right? Last time I did that, somebody got my banking information, they froze my account. So I don't want to give this to you. Whatever the case might be, when you're supposed to select, did the client provide their financial information, and you select no, we will give you a reasonable measures ticket on the app. You must, and I repeat, must enter what was not provided, the account number. Whoops, can't spell today. Number, the date, the time, and the reason. Be specific. In an audit, Carly, Percy, Caitlin, they will have to show FINTRAC what reason, what sort of due diligence was the agent educated on when this situation arises. That's ultimately what they want to see. They want to see what sort of educational material was passed down, right? Everything starts from the top. You guys have tremendous leadership at Century 21, Percy Fulton. Amazing leadership, amongst the best I've seen. So make sure that this section does get filled out. However, do not make it a habit. I repeat, do not make it a habit, because if you make it a habit, you become the common denominator as to why you're never able to get this information. So make a habit of at least making the attempt. Reason not given. Client, I think I actually have my answers pre-populated. Client, there we go. Did not want to give account number due to privacy. There you go. So when the receipt of funds is actually completed, and I'll show you how this looks in just a couple of minutes, your office staff will receive your receipt of funds, all required fields completed, legible PDF, and a fifth page. And that fifth page is your reasonable measures report that will be shown in an audit situation when the source account cannot be collected. But I repeat again, and I got to highlight this, it wasn't something that was asked of me, but I want to make sure that the agents are actually collecting this information, okay? And if you can't, use the ticket. Do you suspect money laundering, terrorist financing? No. Client's just being super difficult. He's always been like that. The reason I asked at the beginning, are these funds coming from your account or someone else's account? The beautiful thing about FinTracker is that if you've already FinTracked the individual that is providing the funds on this transaction, under section D1, you select search previous records, enter the individual's name, and bada bing, bada boom, fills out all of the client's information for you there. If at the source account you ask, are these funds coming from your account or someone else's account? Oh, actually, my mom is providing the deposit for my property. It's my first house, and she's been saving, and such a beautiful story. Great. I need to ID mom as part of my legal obligations, as someone who's being part of this financial transaction. Oh, that'd be great, but my mom, she's like lives out in the boonies. She's like so far away. It's gonna take us like 3 hours to get there. No problem. Give mom a call. Let her know she's going to receive a text message where she can scan her ID. There's a little tutorial video, and then take a selfie, and that'll fill out all her information so we can move forward with this receipt of funds. Oh, no problem. How do I do that? Under search previous records, you'll see it says select from remote ID verifications. You'll click on that, and then you'll see it says send new. And then the same way you did at the very beginning to ID your client, enter your name, your last name, client's phone number, or email. They can obviously open up the verification process on their phone. I don't recommend you using a laptop because these cameras simply will not pick up the client's ID, let alone be able to take a selfie in high resolution to ensure that it is who they say they are. If they're next to you, great. There's a scan photo ID. You grab the government issue ID, you scan it, and it'll pre-populate the information for you. But in this case, hopefully you're being proactive. You've ID'd the client before you actually push the sale through, and then double check the client's information. Are there anyone else you believe that's kind of, pushing the deal in the corner? Maybe there's someone that's, giving, instructions there, and you're like, well, it looks like you might be part of this deal. I need to ID you as part of my legal obligation. Like, no, it's a good way to shut people up that are trying to Carly's laughing. She's like, yeah, there's always somebody in the corner there that's, yapping. So is there anybody else providing funds or entities? Yes, no. If there is, great. Give me your ID. Let's go. If not, move along. Hit save. And now you can submit two individual ID forms and a receipt of funds. I'll show you how these look. Your compliance officer, your admins, they will actually receive a notification. They have their administrative portal, which is part of the FinTracker ecosystem that will allow them to review the forms in the same format that they were submitted. It mirrors the app. And they're also screening and monitoring because on the remote IDs, we actually screen the individuals against thousands of lists to ensure your office actually has an additional level of risk assessment beyond just the 17 questions. So let's go ahead and look at the PDF. Open this up. Have a look. Look how beautiful that is. I promise you, you start submitting forms like this and you will become the compliance officer's very, very bestest friends. For sure. Check it out. Look at this. No scratching, no initialing, no big like blackouts because the printer wasn't working or the fax wasn't working. You get a remote ID verification record. In an audit, FINTRAC extracts this form. Again, hypothetically, I'm in a different province. They're going to ask, how is this client ID'd? If they don't see the standard mandatory agreement, they're going to look for the FinTracker remote verification ID record here. So we are a vetted technology used by more than half of the real estate boards across the country. Proptics gives you guys tremendous benefits. The app is already included in your member benefits. And here's your pass and fail for everything that we screen and scan against. And then to give merit, we actually give you an AML check record. Politically exposed, sanctions, warnings, fitness, probity, everything is passed. And as you can see, I am on none of these lists, which is a good thing. If we're looking at the receipt of funds, so let me open up the receipt of funds here, this PDF. So when you go to your submitted folder, you obviously have two folders. Your pending is where the forms will be when they are not yet completed. And when they're completed, you have your submitted folder. I should have started from there, but I went a bit too quick. Open up the receipt of funds. Check it out. Go beautiful this is. All filled out through drop-down menus and multiple choice. And here's a reasonable measures report. In an audit, account number not provided, client did not want to give this, but I repeat, make the attempt, make it a habit to get to know your client, to build the trust, to gather this information. But at the very least, use the reasonable measures taken. All right, let's go back to, where was I? Last but not least, corporate ID forms. We've actually simplified this entire process. And I know there's like 33 questions in the chat. I'll get to them in a second. Corporate IDs. We've, again, simplified this whole process. I know that agents have struggled tremendously filling out corporate information, getting corporate documents, finding out through the registries where this belongs. We now have this button where it says send info request. In most situations, offices or corporations, they have their ducks in a row. They have all the information that you need. And so what you're going to do, and I encourage you to use this, especially for corporations, are used to doing this for other transactions, send info request, enter your name, email them. I wouldn't text them because most corporations have their information, their articles of corporation, shareholders agreements. They have everything on the computer. So try not to text them, email them. But I'm going to text myself because I'm on the phone right now. 416-910-9747. Now everybody knows my phone number. That's great. I'll be the most popular person in Canada by the time my career is done here. Everybody has my phone number. You will receive a text message. There you go. Christian Kaspari from CK Brokerage is requesting information for you and for your real estate transaction. Complete the request here. Open it up. And here is your corporate ID form. And the corporation is now filling out all of this information, naming the directors, attaching corporate documents if they have to. Moving along. Does anyone own 25% or more? If they do, name them. Directly or indirectly, please make sure you ask this question when working with a corporation. When we talk about 25% or more directly or indirectly, there might be another corporation that owns 25% of this corporation. We've been recently acquired by First Canadian Title, and they own 50% or more of our corporation. So in a transaction that we conduct as a business, we actually have to name them as an additional party, and they need to be ID'd. So make sure that you're asking this question. Does anyone own 25% or more? If they do, great. Enter them and then move on. When you get to the bottom here and you're asked for corporate documents, shareholders agreements, articles of corporation, they can upload the PDFs here for you. When they are done, If there's, uploading the articles of corporation, sometimes beneficial ownership is not on there. Have them select other, and then maybe make a note here. Agent will receive a written attestation of corporate structure or something like this. Or maybe they do have an attestation that they use as part of their articles of corporation that they can attach. Okay. When they are done, what are they going to do? They're going to sign this little notepad there. Did you see? They're going to sign this, which is going to basically let you know that the information they provided is correct and current. If you have corporation documents with you, maybe you're not a big believer of creating more work for the client and you're being proactive, and I hope you are. That's great. Two things. When you submit the request to the corporation for them to fill out and provide corporate documents, it will not let you enter information in the app. It'll lock it, so you're not overlapping information. Another way you can use this is that, for example, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this request. If you have the information, you can enter the client's information already here, right? ABC software, for example. ABC software. Enter the company's address. Let's do 20 Linden. And I'll show you how this looks. I'm actually putting some pictures to words here. Richmond Hill. We'll scroll down. Nature of business. Software development. Name the directors. If you ID them, it'll be there. If there's more than one director, you just need to ID one director on a corporation. Type of verification record, Ontario Business Registry. But maybe you get to the source verification record or the registration number and you're stuck. You're like, I don't actually have this. Don't waste time calling the client. Scroll back up, send info request. Put my name, text message. It's already pre-populated. Hit send. The client's going to receive hopefully an email. Then you're not using text messages for this. They're going to open up the new request and they're going to see that you have already pre-populated many of these answers for them. And they can go ahead and say, and change this information as they need. Be proactive, right? Not reactive to the situation. That's how we make mistakes. In most cases, you have corporate documents, you have this information, fill it out. If you're stuck somewhere, you don't have it, submit the request, give the receptionist or the deals department a heads up. I just sent you an email. I need you to complete the missing fields because I don't have those. Sure, no problem. I'll get that to you by the end of the day. And give instructions towards the end. They can actually upload shareholders agreements, articles of corporations, attestations, and other supporting documents. Okay. We'll go back here. I'm not going to complete the corporate ID, but you get the idea how it works. You've done these many, many times. Again, can't submit a form if it's missing required fields. And I would encourage you to actually test it with your own IDs, create mock corporations, just simply do not submit them. When you're towards the end, swipe left and delete. Okay? The best feature we have with FinTracker is if you work with a client a second time, you don't have to ask them again for their ID. You go to My Records, hit the plus button, New Individual ID, search previous records, enter the client's name, and then I went from a buyer to a seller. Fill in the blanks, resubmit. The same thing goes for corporations. Back to My Records, I'm not going to save this. If you're working with a corporation on more than one occasion, open the corporate identification form, search previous records, ABC Corp, and then it's going to fill out the corporation information here for you. Directors, documents, everything. It's all there for you. Use the technology. It's created by a realtor for realtors. If you have any other questions, go back to your main screen. I'm not going to save this. Top right corner, 3 buttons. Help, view tutorials, tons of tutorials here for you to watch from an agent, from an admin side. Or if you're stuck with the ID, you're having issues, you want to change your profile, you want to change your brokerage, maybe you're just jumping into Percy Fulton, you can all do that with a simple click of a button, hit help, contact support, send us a message. But you also have on the left-hand side, top right corner, drop-down menu. If you run out of remote ID tokens, you can purchase tokens through the app at, I think they're about $3 or $4. Go to settings, purchases, hit the plus button at the bottom. I think for PropTix are $2.99. These are non-PropTix prices. They squeeze us a little bit harder. So you can purchase tokens through the app there as well. If you need to change your profile, go to settings, profile, and actually I can't do it because I'm logged in, but you can update your brokerage. Maybe you're coming from a different company, you can update your brokerage. And if you have any questions, again, don't try to, figure it out. Contact support, send a message. We respond in record time. All right. I have 12 minutes before I got to jump onto my next meeting. Does anyone have any questions? I'm afraid to open the chat.
I have
Carly,
a
if you
couple
want
that
to,
I'll ask. Yeah, I'll ask
yeah,
some
go
of
ahead.
mine quickly too, and then you can run through the chat. I can always answer. I've been answering some of the chat too, but
Oh, that's
um,
amazing. Thank you for helping.
I was just wondering if you can show us what it looks like for the politically exposed people. If you said yes, does it ask more questions
Oh,
or?
yes, it just simply asks you the position held. So if I go back to the individual
I just
ID
want them to see
form,
what it looks like because I think we all just naturally want to say no, but you had a good script where you actually have to ask them if they are,
you
exposed
have
with
to ask the
anybody.
question.
So it's not an
The
automatic
reason
like no or an NA.
Yeah, the reason that you have to ask the question because your office has obviously opted into the AML screening and ongoing monitoring, which also screens and monitors against politically exposed. So if they select none of the above on the if you, the agent, selects none of the above on the politically exposed section of the form, your office will actually get notified with an AML warning and will reject the form asking you to correct and resubmit. So if you go back to the PEP section of the form, which is at the very bottom here, and you select politically exposed, it's going to ask you a couple extra questions at the bottom. Position held, name of organization, is this an individual client, and has $100,000 in cash and virtual currency been received by this individual? That's it. It'll prompt you to ask a few extra questions. Just because they're politically exposed doesn't mean they're not able to transact in Canadian real estate. They simply have to disclose their position or relationship to someone who's politically exposed. That was a great question. Thanks, Carly.
And then you don't need to show it, but just in case you didn't notice, there was a section there that says send disclosure info to your client to explain why we're doing this. So there's an
Yep,
ORIA form. They also have their own version. So if you have a client that's a bit apprehensive or you want to give them more education, you can actually send them some information right through the app as well.
right here.
Yeah.
Yep. FINTRAC disclosure form, enter their email, and then hit the send FINTRAC or disclosure form, and they'll receive why this is required and is a legal obligation from the agent under federal law. Proceeds of crime, money laundering, terrorist financing act.
Correct. And then I wanted to clarify, so we get 5 remote IDs free. The remote IDs are for when you're not in person. So you get 5 of those for free. And then I think you mentioned the prop text fee is like $2.99 or something. It's still the
Yep.
best $3 I think you'll ever spend.
Oh my
But you
goodness,
have
yes.
unlimited paper form. Like I shouldn't call it paper, but regular forms where you're in person with the client, those are unlimited. You get those all
Yep.
the time.
You can
Just the
scan as
remote
many
one.
IDs as you'd like, and it's free. There's no
Yeah, and
no
if you want
charge
prop
and
text to
there's
pay
no
for
wait.
more, fight about it. We'll tell them we want more. We want 20 or something. We can fight it. Receipt of funds is required for all purchases on the buy side for deposits, but also if you're in a lease where the deposit is more than $10,000, which is happening more nowadays, you also still need receipt of funds for leases when it's more than $10,000. I would love to see it for all leases, but you guys would kill me if I did that to you in the market right now. But if it's more than $10,000, like they're paying like the whole year up front or they're paying first, 3 months or something, they still need receipt of funds for those.
Speaking of the receipt of funds, I want to make a quick plug in there as well. There's a misconception that if the client is delivering the check to the listing brokerage or sends an email transfer, the representing buyer, the agent representing the buyer must do the receipt of funds. Okay? In the event that you're working with a developer or a builder and you're simply referring your client to the developer and to the builder, then at that point, the builder or developer would have to do the receipt of funds on a referral basis. Okay? So please make sure that you actually are completing the receipt of funds. That is our position. Maybe your workflow, your office policies are completely different, right? Some offices have actually made it also a requirement that even if the client is delivering the deposit to the trust account for the builder or the developer, right? There's a little gray writing in the formatting there. Some offices are still requiring, even if, again, you're representing, you have a buyer representation agreement with the client, and they are bringing the deposit to the builder to the developer. Some offices are still requiring that the agent must complete the receipt of funds. But I'll leave that up to you. If that's something you want to include, great. But it needs to be done. Someone needs to do the receipt of funds.
Yep, fair. Just a little tip too. Caitlin and I used this a couple weeks ago with an online lead that we got, and they wanted to meet us in person, and we wanted to ID them, and they were a little bit apprehensive, and we ended up using the FinTracker app to do that. And it was a way for us to know that he was a legit person. He was who he said he was, and we let FinTracker app kind of verify them. So if you want to use it for your own safety for that reason too, you could. But a question for you, Christian, that particular client did ask us, what does FinTracker app do with the photos of IDs? I'm sure you don't keep a record of it, but how do you answer that question if it gets
That's
asked?
amazing. That's a great question. So if there are no, when you're actually, if the client is doing the remote ID process and they're taking a snapshot, a few things to note here. Number one, if there are no signs of tampering or fraud with the ID, we purge the image after 7 days. All client information, if they don't come back for a second transaction, gets legally purged from our servers after 5 years. We are SOC 2 compliant, so we have our SOC 2 certificate. We're part of DIAC, which is a Digital Identification Authentication Council of Canada. Yeah, it's one big acronym there. All of our servers are in Canada, so none of the client's information actually gets cross-bordered. So we are also a partner company of First Canadian Title, so I'm sure most of these individuals know who that is. FCT, they acquired majority shares of the company, so we are held to the very highest security standards. And once the information is submitted and in our servers, it is military encrypted, asterisks put over personal identifiable information of the client as well. So nobody's touching that information. It is the securest way to ID a client who's not physically present, taking away bad habits of, can you just text me a copy of your ID? And then keeping it there for years, hoping the next transaction materializes. It's infraction of the Privacy Act and could result in monetary fine, suspension, or even loss of license if you are a common denominator and a repeat offender.
Oh,
Use the
thank you.
remote IDs. Yeah, they're there for you. Not to mention, think about it. I mean, if you're, Toronto's a big city. If you're in Ajax and your client's in Mississauga, like that's like a 45-minute drive one way and 45 minutes back just
Probably
to
more
scan the
now.
ID for free. Like,
Mhm.
right, like the math isn't mathing. Spend $3, send them a link. All the information comes back, pre-populates, you submit, we do the AML screening, your office does the AML monitoring. Amazing, great stuff. And not spending $40 in gas going back and forth and all your time. $3, shoot the link over.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Do you want to try to target some questions? Do you want me to read them, Christian, or do you want to kind of like go through and just answer what you can and I can answer what you can't?
Yeah, I gotta start from where do I start here?
I
Oh,
can
you were
read them out
answering a
loud.
bunch. Yeah, you were answering a bunch of questions as well. Yeah, we can ask a few of them that you think that need to be attended today. Go ahead.
Okay, I mean, one of them was that they're having an error message with their ID. I took a look at the photo. I have a feeling that ID is wrong. Do all tribe IDs start with a nine? Like, what do your tribe IDs start with? Nine? What's yours, Curtis?
Oh yeah, nine actually.
Starts with a nine, right? So I have a feeling for that particular question, maybe that was your RICO ID and not your tribe ID. It's your tribe ID that you need. What happens if a seller sells and buys? We have to fill it out twice.
Yeah, you need a new FINTRAC form for every transaction. Correct.
Well, I kind of lied. I said no in there, but yeah, you showed a really good way because I guess FinTrack wants to know if they're a buyer or a seller in that particular.
Yes.
So you don't need a form necessarily that IDs them twice, but you need to kind of
Yeah.
say
Just
what they did. So
yeah.
yeah.
You pull if enough time has gone by. So if maybe a couple weeks, you sold them a property today and they need a place to live, you simply recall the information through the app by searching previous records and then changing from buyer to seller. If a lot of time has gone by, maybe 6 months or more, and they return to now maybe purchase another property or sell that property that you just purchased from them, you have to ask some ongoing monitoring questions, which is the agent's obligation, which is, are you still working at this job? Are you still employed at this company? Are you still living at this address? And some offices have also requested agents update any expired government issued ID. It's not a requirement when you're using FinTracker, but if office policy says you have to, by all means, do so.
Okay. And then we got this question in a couple different ways, but mom doesn't have a cell phone. What do they do?
Ideally, they should or perhaps could ask someone for assistance to come by and maybe hold the ID. If they don't have a picture ID, they can still manually enter the information in the individual ID. So if they're scrolling up, if they are, let's say, a seller, they're selling their property, they select government issued ID, and then they can enter the information manually there. Someone would have to actually go there and do this with them, assist them in this process. Or the dual ID method is also an option on the app.
And can the app be accessed from a desktop computer, or is it only like
Yes,
mobile app?
you have
Okay.
the exact same features, laptop or desktop. The only thing you
I don't.
cannot do with the desktop is scan the ID, right? It won't let you do that because these laptops don't have, the high resolution that's needed to capture the information. But you can send remote ID tokens. You can fill out, if you went to the client's house, maybe they live 10 minutes away, you went over, you grabbed the ID. Whoops, I can't submit this obviously. But let's say I'm sitting next to the client. Um, I'll hit continue. I'll scan the back. It pre-populates the information of the client. I got to run, Carly. I'll be back in another day. You leave, you go home, and then on the desktop, you can actually fill in the rest of the information. You don't always have to use the app. The app is convenient because it's kind of like your on-the-go FINTRAC companion.
Okay, cool. You probably have to run, Christian. I can answer the rest of the questions if you want.
Is there anything else any other big important questions that maybe I can answer in the meantime? Got a couple
They're
more
kind of
minutes.
things like I can answer. Like one of them is, do these policies apply retroactively? So I've had a listing for a while, have a copy on license on file. Is that okay? You probably you have to do business monitoring. So you have to ask them if their career has changed, their job has changed, income has changed, source of money. That's the section D, I think one in that box that
Yep.
asks you what you did to ascertain that the information was valid and current. So even if you had a license on file, we're still obligated to find out if anything changed in that time and make sure that the license itself didn't expire as well.
Mhm. This is a great question by Sebastian here. In a co-brokerage listing, do both agents have to submit to FINTRAC? Um, that is something I believe, Sebastian, is left to office policy. Some offices want both agents to FINTRAC, even if it's the same client. Sometimes one is sufficient if it's from the same listing brokerage or, yeah, listing brokerage.
Our policy, I mean, it depends on the case. In Sebastian's case, I know he does referrals. So no, I would let the main brokerage
Yeah,
maintain that information. We're just a referral brokerage, but it kind of depends on your co-list agreement and what the situation is on the
correct.
particular deal.
Yeah. I know you answered a bunch of questions here. I'm just scrolling through them
You can
while I
double
have
check.
another minute. Um, there's a membership you talked about that. What if the seller sells and buys? Do we have to fill in twice? You answered that as well. Yes, you do. You have to create a new individual ID form. And I think we pretty much answered all the questions. Did we
Cool. I
not? I
mean, you
think so.
guys will have more questions, so don't hesitate to reach out to me, to any of
Yeah.
the management team, to Fin. If it's about the app, you're best to just go to the people that made the app because I'm just going to have to go through them anyways.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah. Just reach out
at
to
the
us
same
again.
time.
Top
Go to
right.
them.
Yeah, top right corner, help button, contact support, send a message, right? We don't give legal advice, we don't give real estate advice, but when it comes to using the app and what you can and cannot do with it, we're there to help you 100%. That's why we're here to support the entire Percy Fulton team. Thank you again, Carly, for your time. I really do appreciate it. And if you do require maybe a second session at some point throughout the spring or summer, just feel free to reach out. Okay?
Okay, that sounds good. I'll log off here too, and I'll stay back for Kennedy questions. Caitlin, I know you'll stay back. Just let me know if you guys have any questions.
Perfect.
Appreciate your time.
Caitlin,
Thanks so
Carly, thank you very much for everything. Love the hats. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
much. Take care.
Bye.
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 Okay, good.
Okay, she is.